Shalom, beautiful family. It's Ty. We are back for this beautiful Sabbath. Today, for Sabbath, we ended up reading John in the King James Bible, chapter 16 and chapter 17 of John. So, me and the family are going to discuss what we read from John, what we got out of John, and what it made us think about. Aaliyah, you going to go first? Okay. What stood out to you in John chapter 16 and 17? Please tell us the chapter and the verse, please.
So one of the things that stuck out to me was chapter 16, verse 3. And these things they will do unto you because they have not known the Father nor me. I thought this was go ahead. And these things they will do unto you because they have not known the Father nor me. That stood out to me because I thought it was important. They were saying that when people don't know the Lord, they have a certain act to them, and that they don't know no better, or they might not want to know better. So it's just a life of them living in sin. So they treat people a certain way because they don't know love and stuff, and love is important to know to treat people good. Another thing that's important that stuck out to me was chapter 17, verse 14. I have given them thy word, and the world hath hated them because they are not of the world, even as I'm not of the world. That stood out to me because it basically, again with chapter 16, basically saying that it's important to know when someone's of the world and when someone is not because of how they act, and basically saying that they hate the person who believes in God and stuff because they don't believe and because they're of the world and they're comfortable living in the world. So they treat you as an outcast because you live different.
Yes, we talked about that last week, right? That worldliness, that vanity, materialistic. Because I notice it's a complete opposite in people. And then when you have these conversations, the first thing these people like to do is gaslight and deflect. Also, you're saying because I like to have nice things, then they always go into wealthy. We're not even talking about wealth here. That's two separate things. Nobody is even saying you can't be wealthy. It's saying that it's just like that. That's the saying goes, the love of money is the root to all evil, right? People miss that. It's not money, it's the love of money. So it's not that you're wealthy, it might be your love or your need for wealth, right? Because some people are wealthy and you would never even know it, right? Because they're not in love with their wealth, right? And that's been that's a stigmatized thing, like where they try to glorify that, right? They'll always try to put those type of people in our face when we, in reality, if you've been well-rounded enough, you've met people who are wealthy on both sides of those spectrum, right? They are wealthy, but you may not be able to tell, right? Because a lot of times when you hear or see about someone being wealthy, right, or even worldly, they are someone who does what? They might be very vanity, right? Care a lot about what they're wearing, or not even what they're wearing, because I think when you say that too, it means like, oh, somebody is like really terribly dressed, right? Or, wearing something that just looks not presentable, and then you might have somebody and it's like they look like they're dressed up to occasion. So I don't like to completely present it like that, because I don't think that's what it really is. Narrows down to is more so maybe this one person spent $100 on their outfit, and this other person spent $2,000 on their outfit. And then some people say, well, that's what I like to do, with my money. It's my money, and that's very true. But if you're always spending $2,000 on your clothes, then that means, let's be honest, you're worldly. Like, be for real. Like, you have a lot of interest on how much you spend for your clothes, because you can look real nice for $200. In fact, you can look real nice for less than $200, even in today's time, right? So we know if you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars every time you have to present yourself, or even for certain things, right? Because we know, once again, there's a lot of wealthy people who literally own a raggedy house. That's not saying that's going to be for everybody either, and that the person who doesn't is evil, or they're only, into these things. But that's that. But I don't want to go off into that deep world or never-ending subject for some reason. But that's always these people too, because they know who they are. So their way of getting out of this is always to deflect, always to gaslight. Oh, you must want to be poor. The Bible's teaching y'all to be poor. No, they're not. No, they're not. The Bible talks about wealth all the time. It is not saying you have to be poor to be with God. That's not what it's saying. Or the other one is enslavement was given to you by slave owners. Spiritual belief systems were around long before the 1600s and this so-called slavery, this enslavement that was enforced on numerous people, especially melanated folks, right? So we melanated people were believing in God, were having spiritual beliefs before the King James Bible or any other Bible after that fact. So why is it this need for trying to push this narrative that, being poor or being in poverty or being enslaved is for those who believe in God, or allowing people to get over on you? That's not what the Bible is telling us to do. And if you want to push that narrative out there, it's telling me one thing for sure, that the power of the Bible, and that you literally are working with the demonic and evil entities to persuade people away from God, from being chosen. And this is why there's only but a remnant, That's why it say many are called and few are chosen. Because you have so many people leading people down this road of destruction, of vanity and worldliness. And their first thing to do is to gaslight people into believing different nuances of the Bible. You either got the ones that's telling you believe it, and they want you to believe portions of it, or think you're the portion in it, whereas you're supposed to be getting enslaved, or you're supposed to be treated a certain way, you're turning another cheek. That's not good rhetoric either. Or telling you that the person or the people in there don't look like you. None of these disciples were melanated people or something like that, and now you feeling like the only way you can get close to somebody who's saved, or you're not clean, or you're not holy, is because you're not represented anywhere in there, when that's a lie too, right? So you got people working on both sides, but it's really the same side. Okay? And then, like I said, you got that group of people trying to tell you the only way, to defeat this is with wealth. You know what I'm saying? Because how many wealthy people do we know who are mentally and spiritually broke? You know what I'm saying? Who are lonely, who are downtrodden. The only way they can get people to come around is with funds or do things. You know what I'm saying? When they die, people are literally lining up to get everything they have. That's it. That's all. They wouldn't have came for any other reason. Let's be honest. So, and this is the rhetoric we've been preaching, a very capitalism, worldly rhetoric. People are now looking up to people not because they have respect for them, but because they're teaching this rhetoric where it's all about a love for money. It's not even about how do we acquire wealth so we can feed our children and give them everything they need, so that they're not, beggars, that they're not people who are in need of certain things, you know what I'm saying, so that they can pass along generational wealth. And sometimes generational wealth is not a bunch of money, because how many people have squandered money? I mean, some of the wealthiest families known to mankind have lost it all in one generation of the next family. Why? Because they didn't know anything about wealth or economics. They didn't know anything about financial literacy, right? They didn't have the tools, or because, and more importantly, a lot of it too was they didn't even need to have necessarily any of those tools I just listed, but they were so into the world, they had to have those clothes. Even trillions or even hundreds of billions of dollars can get squandered in a generation's lifetime. Why? Because you have to have all these houses, all these cars, all these clothes. Now what? You know what I'm saying? That stuff costs. When you could be passing on even a piece of land, one home can continue on from generation to generation and prove to be beyond surpassing the needs that a family needs for generation to generation, and create a multitude of success. You know what I'm saying? If you teach the importance of it, if you know what I'm saying, of treating things right and how to grow and giving people the right tools they need to be self-sufficient and not to be overly, endowed, right, in this need for money. And it's not even because you want to use it to do like good things, right? You just want to have it just so you can say, well, I have this much money, right? That's the difference, is what we trying to go with that here. And that's what they're talking about, right? Was there anything else you wanted to share? A couple things that stuck out to me in John 16, but I don't want to spend up too much time because I guess, I elaborated a lot on yours. But if something else comes up that you want to say, let me know too. So for me, it was John 16 verses 1 through 14, I believe, or 1 through 13. And so it basically goes on to say, I have spoken to you, and that you shouldn't be offended. It says they shall put you out of the synagogues, right? The time cometh, right? Because it's saying that you're going to be replaced, and you're going to be told that you're not who you are, but you are, right? Because that's the first part of the, dissolution, right? Is to tell someone they not who they say they are, and then try to call them crazy for claiming they are who they are. Now, the Bible doesn't speak on this, but when you end up living your life as the very people that the book is talking about, these instances, and they're happening. You see them happening today. You know what I'm saying? And then you see people who are telling you they are the people, and they're not. And this is why in Revelations it tells you those who say they are, but they are not. They are the synagogue of Satan. This literally goes hand in hand with that. No. But yes. And so it says, and these things they will do unto you because they have not known the Father, right? This is more so about learning people, stealing their heritage, stealing their culture, and using it to douse them, right? To gaslight them, to recreate, a narrative, and then take control. And a lot of times we use the word colonialism, but our biggest enemy, and a lot of other people's, has been actually imperialism, right? Because that has to do with economics. That has to also to do with your structural, your religion, your culture, and stuff like that. It has to do with power, and the taking of power, and the taking over, and the removal of things that are inherent and that are a part of your lifestyle, which would have been spirituality. And a lot of this took place because a lot of our people had aligned themselves with people who just wanted to dismiss this need for spirituality. Remember, they wanted to break free so bad. They wanted to not be a part of certain strongholds. So this is where you do to get the differentiations of tribes. This is where you get the reason why today, why some people say we're not a monolith people. No, we're not, and that's a good thing. But then it also shows you the bad portions of it too. Why we're not a monolith, because there's a lot of people who were like, nope, I don't want to believe in this spiritual thing. And this, like I said, this stuff is long before the King James Bible, right? We were speaking different languages, because like I said, this stuff goes past Hebrew. This goes past Aramaic. This goes past, any language in any, Indian, native, indigenous tribe we even heard of here, right? In this part of the hemisphere. So this stuff has been happening since the beginning of time. That's why I find it so funny that when people talk about the Bible, they always got this narrative of the 1600s, as if even in the Bible it starts there. The story starts way, tells you we trying to get you to the beginning of time. But for some reason, these same demonic entities want you to be stuck on somehow this book is only telling you how to be a slave or your enslavement. When majority of the book is barely even talking about that. Let's be for real though, right? But you want me to believe that this was just a book created to keep me enslaved. So, moving on. It says, because I have said these things unto you, sorrow have filled your heart. And prior to that, he was saying, but now I go my way to him that sent me, and none of you asketh me, right? Because they are dealing with the present. They don't even want to know, what's going to come. So that tells me that these people, we are, endowed. I heard someone else say this, and maybe endowed with this need of feeling good, right? Because our people, we not only have we been imprisoned to materialism, but we've been imprisoned to this need to always feel good, or like we gotta have somebody around us that's going to heal us, when a lot of us could have healed ourselves. Correct? Mm-hmm. A lot of us have the ability to heal ourselves. We have the ability to seek within ourselves the things that is needed to build a relationship closer to the Most High. And we choose not to. This is how we always end up falling in the hand of colonizers or imperialist ideas. And we always, try to align ourselves with people who have never been aligned with us and never will be. Mm-hmm. You see them, they want to join truths, they want to align themselves, they want to partner up with, right now today, with the ideologies of people who do not agree, who never will agree, who will never respect your culture, your ideas, your work ethic, what you've contributed, your history. Your customs. It does not matter to them. And they will tell you that as long as it's going to get them a few steps ahead. And you're thinking, oh, well, I'm going to get somewhere in the midst of this too, but you're not. You're not. Because it will never make sense for that to work out. You know what I'm saying? You got to think that somebody spent thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and I don't think this is for everybody, this is for specific people, but if someone spends thousands and thousands of years trying to keep you in a certain state of mind, so to speak, because that's really what it's about, what makes you think they're going to decide like they no longer want to do that? That's, for them, that's dangerous. It's dangerous for you to come up out of that state of mind. So they just going to keep you on the loop. You now being looped in and out back into a different version of that same state of mind. Because how dare you end up raising your consciousness to a portion, a place where, you want to break free of that. So you know what I'm saying? And then that's really what it's about. Disillusion, and it's happening within communities. So it's not just people who don't look like you. What I'm saying is it's a spirit, it's an energy. If people don't want to see you evolve, you know what I'm saying, they're going to keep giving you, that same thing. And so you only looking for what feels good now, not really preparing yourself for what it will work out for you and your future generations later. Or what's going to happen to somebody, what's coming for them. You just want to know what's going on with them now, right? Mm-hmm. Because people are selfish. End of that discussion. And so that's what stood out to me. And the last thing was, verse 12 and 13. I have yet many things to say unto you, but ye cannot hear them now. And I was like, man, I say this to the kids all the time, right? Like, Spirit has given me so many visions, and a lot of things, like, in these visions or in these dreams, I've been told, say them, but majority of them I've been having to tell y'all, well, wait, like, I can't tell you now, or I have an answer, but, now it's not the right time. Mm-hmm. Right? Because everything comes in due time, and a lot of times it's because even when you tell people stuff, they still don't get it. So it's kind of like a learned lesson, right? Some people just have to learn and fall into this, and that's something that is tough that I've come in to realize. But a lot of the people in general, they don't really want to know the truth. That's the conclusion I've come up with. So you can tell them until you blue in the face, but they got to be ready to receive it. So that's in due time. Going on, it says, for this is how be it, when the Spirit of truth is come, he will guide you into all truth, right? So, for he shall not speak of himself, but whosoever he shall hear, he shall speak. So it's basically saying, so when the time is right, you'll be able to finally hear it. Right? So it is, so that's why sometimes they say, it's not when you say it or what you say, it's when you say it and how you say it and things like that. So that is true too. So it's all about the timing of things too. Because you might say something that's needed to be said, but maybe you say it too soon. Or, heck, you could be saying it too late. But a lot of times it's, you also hear people say like Malcolm X or other people, right? Speakers, they were before their time, right? Or even an artist or something like, wow, they were so before their time, And so that's kind of where that comes from too, because they're ahead of the game. And it's not even that they were before their time. I'd like to really tell you it's because folks is behind time. A lot of people, let's be honest here, is I gotta find a better word for it. They just, they lack like a real motive, a real energy behind that. And this was being discussed in in our community, about how a lot of the people in the civil rights movement, or even like through the Black Panthers movement of the 70s, like we had such a big movement going in the 60s and the 70s, and they got died out and they got hit in the 80s with drugs and crime and prison. And that wouldn't have worked if our people had aligned us. And you see it today. A lot of our people, they'll have the tools and they have the education, they got the knowledge, they got the skills, they got talent, but they didn't pass on like a handbook for their next generation. Like none of our civil rights workers for real, either they got, murdered, or some of them, like Malcolm X was smart enough, like when he knew they was coming for him, he wrote his book, right? He started getting his story together, which was definitely great. But I'm sure if he had more time, or if he realized sooner than later who he was dealing with, he would have probably been able to put together more things, like a hand, you know what I'm saying? Like the building up of, and it's the unfortunate truth about it is, until our people get to a point where they have a loyaltiness for themselves and enough love for their people, it's going to be hard, because we have like some real strongholds in there, right? We had the Hueys and stuff like that, and they stood their ground on what they had to say, and they weren't moved by it. But most of our people can be moved. They can be, they can be bought and paid for. And you see it not just here, you see it in for a lot of melanated people across the globe, where they're presidents, where they're I was just looking at it, the Congo's president. I have to look more into it. The Kenyan president, they over there acting a fool. They've been, because their president's selling them out. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing going on here. And the same thing is going on in Latin America. Really the same thing going on in certain parts of Europe and Asia. For real. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people can be bought. They don't really care about their people. And you see, this is why these things, these systems and narratives keep going. Because there's always somebody, who's in control of this narrative, and it takes a willing participant. So we got a lot of willing participants in our very own community. So how many times can you also be like, oh, well, it's this person? Yeah, I mean, they're offering it, but did you have to take the offer? It's a lot of people, you ain't gonna hear from them, and then when you do, they don't get as much, I don't even want to say clout, but they don't have that same point, because for most of our people, once again, we'll be like, why is this person the most popular rapper or this, that? Because you made it so. You've allowed it. Because y'all have invited so many people to the back, to the cookouts. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have allowed so much to come in and hybridize, right, and globalize and basically wash out, you know what I'm saying, imperialize our culture. So everything that we've come up with and created and been able to use as a stronghold to push our people forward and get us up out of certain narratives, it always, and they never can use that same platform and get there, but they'll show you real quick how being melanated versus not melanated, it does matter, and they put it right in your face. You know what I'm saying? Because look at how they did it with Ice Spice and Cardi B. They don't have no talent, but it was more so about how do we get lighter skinned women, half breed women who lack Afro, they not known for having, and this is such a controversial topic, but let's go there. They don't have that don't come from their cultures. Let's be honest. They're the real background of their culture and identity, where they come from. That's not a part of them. That's not them. But they push them to the front. That system. And people in our community allow it, and you say stuff like this to actual Afro, supposedly indigenous people, and they'll fight you tooth and nail about it. Oh my gosh, this is why we have nothing now. Y'all want to fit in so much. You want to be okay with so much. This is why we don't have anything. So this is why I don't even really stay too much focused on either the white man, the Asian man, the Indian man, the Latin man, because it's the people right here in our community who are so buck broken that they don't want to, they don't want to safe keep, they don't want to guard, they want to allow everybody to come in and reap the benefits of our culture and society. And that don't mean not let nobody into it. That's not what I'm saying in a sense. You know what I'm saying? But you think about it too. You can't really look a certain way and go into none of these other people's genres and communities and take over like that. Look at Lil Nas X. Look what he had to become and who he had to be in order to even get where he was. He had to let whatever Miley Cyrus' dad was get on his track for it to be labeled country. You see how they take you through the loop? It literally goes back to the song, You Still a Ninja Though. But for real, this is who you are to them. Because ain't no way some white man got to come on something when, once again, country music, really, that's an Afro, rock and roll too. Jazz, all of that stuff. You can't tell certain people this, though, because then they get upset because they mad they took everything. And nothing is original to them. And because they think, because they have a platform where it primarily showcases them now, yeah, because at one point there was no room for us to do it. And when we were, it was always being taken and always being taken. And you seen it with Five Heartbeats and all these other ones. What they do? They making music and they putting white people in front of the album case, right? But this is the stuff, I don't want to say we allow, but we right. So this is when people get mad, or Kanye West, yeah, he be saying foolish stuff, but he was right in a sense. We did allow some of this stuff to happen. Are we not? We still allowing some of this stuff to happen. Then when some of us do speak up, we literally, it's not even white people trying to make us feel bad or other people making you feel bad about it. It's people in your own community telling you to shut up. How dare you take the little bit we had from us, run your mouth. We love being in a slave master's house. That's literally the rhetoric they yelling at you when you say something. Them the first people coming for you. They look like you. That's how trained, this how the much the system got us. Bad. Got all these Sambos ripping and running, ready to try to drag and tear you down the moment you say something different than what has been created and programmed in your mind. So when y'all come up today, your first thing you think, oh, in order for my song to be hot, I gotta put this person on my track. And no one's saying we can't, share things and culturally, do certain things. But there's got to be a safekeeping and a guarding, especially when it comes to economics. And the thing is music economically, that's why I brought it up. That was a stronghold in our community. That a lot of money is made off of that. A lot of money is made off of hair and beauty. And we are a huge part of that, creators of that. No? Isn't it an Afro woman who came up with whether we talk smack about them now, people don't use them, thankfully, but still, you got to Madam C.J. Walker and the other woman really who came out with the stuff, the hair products, that's got perms and hair combs and all of these inventions, millionaire, and then other people end up knocking them off the board, and you allow them, and now they're making more money off of it. Most of these companies selling products to us, it's us. Think about it. How many Afro-owned companies are selling white people hair products? I'll wait. Pay attention, but that's not supposed to matter for us. We got one, maybe two Afro-owned television stations, and then the major one we had, now it's no longer owned by us because our people quickly sell things off and sell out. Like I was reading somebody saying something about the guy from a different world, his dad had all kind of money, and then somebody gonna say in the comments, and I just know it was an agent, but he could have sold that business off and made a bunch of money off it. And why is that y'all first thought? Why would he want to sell his dad's stuff off? If anything, what his dad should have did was, this is why I was telling what you call his kids dad, because y'all may not want to run my businesses. You may not want to take a hold of certain things. So this is why you've got to align yourself with other people in the community and then get you a lawyer and structure things legally so that your stuff is taken care of. Can't nobody sell it off in a way. And if they do, it's going to still stay in a particular community and it's going to serve a certain purpose. People in certain communities do not play that. They've been doing this for hundreds and thousands of years with their corporations and their businesses. They know better. Their corporation, whether their son, daughter, or nephew or niece gets the company, they know it will never end up in certain people's hands and end up benefiting certain people's communities. And people can say, oh, it's not about divisiveness. It's about economics. It's about economic empowerment. And it's about who is it going to serve? Because if we don't serve each other, who's going to serve us? I mean, how long are you going to keep waiting for a specific political party to give you handouts? How long are you going to keep waiting for other people to give you things you were doing before they came out of the mountains? Let's be serious. Like, where do you really think you come from? Who do you really think you are? And how much longer do we keep accepting these small, measly offers? Like, Fred Hampton, his memorial was yesterday. Or the day before yesterday. Thursday. And it was talking about how Billy, we know him, the sellout that worked in the Black Panther Party, he get $300 to watch not just Fred Hampton. They killed like 7 other people that day. Held the gun up to his mother's child's stomach. Like Fred Hampton Jr. said, the first piece of steel he came in contact with, it wasn't the ones at the hospital. It was a police officer's gun. And they smiled, and you can see the pictures. This is not hearsay. They smiled as they carried all of these bodies out the door, and that was going on hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, and it's going on today. Why? Because you got so many sellouts in our community. That's what needs to be talked about, though. Unfortunately, you can't give these people power unless you give these people power. And these people look like everything. You can't be like, oh, it's just the white. No, it's not. It's people who look like you giving the offers. Willy-nillingly can't wait to see you fall. Want to stab you in your back because that's the cessacious energy and spirit that they're carrying because they work with the devil. The devil ain't just aligning himself with people from one race and one economic group. Like, let's be for real here. And the stronger we become a unit, yeah, we're going to face opposition, but none of that stuff should even matter. We got to start making blueprints. We got to start moving in a certain fashion and being able to use this to move and propel ourselves forward, because constantly waiting, constantly putting your, weren't thinking a political party is ever going to get you anywhere, and then constantly preaching this narrative to people, you literally demonic. You're a demonic spirit right now. If you sit here trying to tell somebody if they vote Democratic or Republican or Green Party in today's system, that's going to free their people, that's going to give them options. It didn't 50 years ago, it didn't 20 years ago, and it's not today. They've all been polluted. They all can be bought and paid for. Hell, they all have been bought and paid for. Because the love of money, not because of money, their love for money, their worldliness, their vanity. And a lot of these people, they ain't never have nothing. Billy didn't never have nothing. And that's another topic we're going to go into, and I'm going to end this here. And this is why it's so important to have a parent who loves you. That's why it's so important to come from a family, and that's why the devil attacks the family unit first. Because when your family, you ready to say something? When your family is attacked, right, that's how you end up like Billy. You ain't got nothing to live for. You jealous, conniving, and envious of somebody who knows what family looks like, who knows what empowerment looks like, who knows what it's like to want to be selfless and give up yourself, right? Because Fred Hampton, they raised $21,000. That's like $60,000, $70,000 back then. And instead of taking that and running with it, and we know Billy would have, because he took $300 for several people's lives. And he said, no, man, you can build hospital. You can get a clinic with this. How many of our people are going to do? Very few of them. Even today. And we know $21,000 ain't nothing much today. But they will take it with glee. Because the system done broken them down. They own drugs. They abusing stuff. They're thinking about material things they can buy with that, right? All these people who've been fraudulent, the government and all of these systems to get money, what did they do with it, and how did the government, or when they are catching them finally, how did they catch them? Because they done bought all this frivolous stuff, a bunch of houses and cars, and went on frivolous vacations with it. Because of their love for money, being worldly, want to show off, and because most of them probably never have nothing. Now they got the opportunity to steal and take from needy people. This is what they do with it. Buy multiple houses that they'll never live in. And cars to drive, they're better going to drive. This is the sickness that invades people, though. That's the parasite. So yes, money. Love of money. It's literally destroying communities left and right. Being poor and not having anything. Most importantly, when I say being poor and not having anything, I'm talking about a family, a valuable and a loving family structure. To the point where even if you've been piss poor for multitudes of years, if someone waves $1 trillion, and I'm going with the highest amount, because some of these people are being waved with $5,000 for a rib, okay, or for their family, for their child, their whatever, they're willing to sell it off. Why? Because they've never been shown what it really means to be one, to be 10 toes down, to be loyal. It's a lot of disloyal. And it's a lot of people out here who literally believe that when they get a few dollars, it's going to fix all their problems. And then when they get it, they realize, no, it doesn't. No, money is not going to fix all my problems. Even a top-notch billionaire will tell you that. There's some things money can't buy. It'll probably get you close. I'm sure it does. But I'm sure there's a few things they've come across that it couldn't get them out of.